Okay, so the internet. It's a bit of a digital jungle out there, isn't it?
Huh? Yeah, that's one way to put it. Incredible resource, connects the whole world.
Totally. You can learn anything, find communities,
Right.
but, well, you also stumble across stuff, content that makes you uncomfortable or, is clearly inappropriate.
That's the inherent challenge, right? The amazing openness, but it definitely has its downsides, vulnerabilities in terms of what gets shared.
Well, it seems the Supreme Court of India has really started focusing on those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Just this past Monday, April 28th, 2025, they stepped into the whole issue of, let's call it obscene content.
Yeah, the stuff that's pretty widespread on, streaming platforms and social media.
Exactly. Your Netflixes, your Amazon Primes, but also YouTube, Instagram, X, the whole lot. The court raised what they called a serious concern.
And this isn't exactly out of the blue. People have been worried about this kind of online content for a while now. But the court getting directly involved like this, that's a significant step up, a potential turning point for regulation, maybe.
And they weren't subtle about it. No polite requests here. They sent out formal notices, like proper legal notices.
To who exactly?
The big names, definitely. Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Meta, so Instagram, Facebook X, formerly Twitter.
Right, the usual suspects.
But also, interestingly, platforms like Ulu and ALTT, maybe less known to some, but they got notices too.
Oh, and crucially, the central government is also on the list.
Ulu and ALTT.
Yeah.
Yeah, they often feature content that's, let's say, pretty bold or sexually suggestive. Including them shows the court isn't just looking at mainstream stuff, but the whole spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. So the message feels pretty clear, right? The court is essentially saying, folks, it's time to clean up your digital house, putting them on notice.
And this whole thing was kicked off by a PIL, right? A public interest litigation.
That's right. Filed by a citizen named Uday Maherkar. He seems to be the one really pushing this forward.
So an individual citizen taking on the digital giants in the government. Kind of, yeah. He's described as someone really concerned about how easy it is to find this stuff online, especially obscene and, well, pornographic material.
And his argument is that this isn't just about what individuals choose to watch.
No, he frames it as a much bigger societal problem. He's arguing that this unrestricted access has serious negative consequences for the community.
Okay. And this landed in front of Justices B.R. Gavai and Augustine George Massey.
Yes, which definitely signals how seriously the court is taking this. It's not a minor procedural thing. It's getting top-level attention.
That makes sense. Their involvement really underlines that this is seen as a matter of significant public interest, needing careful consideration.
Okay, so let's dive into the courtroom specifics. What actually happened? What were the core concerns being aired? You can imagine the scene, right? This formal court setting dealing with the Wild West of the internet.
Yeah, it must have been quite the contrast. The atmosphere, I imagine, was pretty serious. Maherk's PIL was the main focus, arguing that these OTT and social media platforms are just putting out obscene stuff really quickly without many checks.
And the courts specifically called out the platforms we mentioned: Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Ulu, ALTT, plus the central government. Quite the list.
It's comprehensive. It shows they understand this isn't just like one bad app. It's across different kinds of platforms.
Justice Gavai apparently made a comment directly about the social responsibility of platforms, mentioning Netflix by name. That really jumps out.
Oh, interesting. What was the gist?
Basically saying, you're not just entertainers, you have a wider duty to society. It's not only about business.
Right. Framing it ethically, not just legally or commercially. That adds another layer. These platforms have influence, so they have responsibilities beyond just content delivery.
And the court also seemed to suggest, maybe nudge, the government, the executive and legislature, saying they also need to come up with better ways to regulate indecent online content.
So pointing out a potential gap in the current rules, maybe suggesting the existing laws aren't quite up to the task for today's internet.
It felt a bit like that, yeah. Like maybe there's been some hesitation to really tackle this head-on before now.
That seems plausible. The current legal frameworks might struggle with the sheer speed and scale of online content. New legislation might be needed.
So why is the court so concerned? What's the driving fear here? It goes back to Maherkar's points, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the impact on kids and young people.
Absolutely. The worry is about easy access to explicit stuff potentially harming young minds. There was mention of it leading to, I think the term used was perverted tendencies, and maybe even linking it to crime.
Wow, that's strong language.
Yeah.
Perverted tendencies. It definitely signals a deep anxiety about the potential effects.
It taps into that broader societal worry about digital media's influence, especially on kids who might not have the critical filters yet. Normalization, desensitization, those are the concerns.
Yeah, and there was this analogy used. Imagine a kid searching for something totally innocent online, like funny videos, right?
Okay.
And they just accidentally click on something really inappropriate. It shows how easily it can happen, even if you're not looking for it.
That's a huge challenge. The lines get blurred so easily online. Content discovery isn't always intentional, especially for younger users.
And it's not just accidents.
Mm.
What about the stuff constantly pushed by algorithms on social media? That hypersexualized content. The argument is that it's becoming almost like a public health issue.
Right, because algorithms are often designed purely for engagement and keep you scrolling, and sometimes that means promoting content that, from a societal view, might be problematic or harmful. Mental health impacts, body image, that's all part of the discussion.
And then the Solicitor General, Tushar Mehta, apparently said something quite striking in court.
Oh, what was that?
He reportedly said, some of the content online is so extreme that, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, two respectable men can't sit together and watch it.
Wow. Okay. That really paints a picture. It suggests we're not just talking about mildly suggestive stuff, but things that are genuinely offensive to mainstream sensibilities.
Exactly. But even after saying that, Mehta apparently mentioned the government is still just contemplating stronger rules.
Okay.
Contemplating.
Contemplating doesn't sound very urgent, does it?
Not really. It suggests maybe they're aware of the problem, but figuring out how to regulate effectively while balancing free speech is tricky. The court's push might speed things up, though.
Let's hope so. So, thinking about the platforms themselves,
Yeah.
you have Netflix and Amazon Prime, huge libraries, lots of variety, some amazing shows, some, well, less so.
Right. And they curate their content, mostly. They choose what goes up, so maybe they have a clearer responsibility.
Arguably, yes. That editorial control makes them different from, say, YouTube.
YouTube, the Wild West within the Wild West sometimes, educational gold mines next to, well, almost anything. It feels way less controlled.
Definitely. It's primarily user-generated content on a massive scale. Moderation there is just a monumental task, different set of challenges.
Yeah, then Instagram and Facebook. Also, lots of user content, but mixed with tons of ads, right? And some of those ads can be pretty questionable themselves.
Yeah, the mix of user posts and targeted advertising adds another layer of complexity for monitoring what people are actually seeing.
And X, or Twitter, that often feels like the most unfiltered space of all. Lots of raw, immediate content, which can be good and bad.
Its focus on real-time free expression means content that pushes boundaries, maybe even crosses lines, can spread very quickly.
And then back to Ulu and ALTT. As you said, they've kind of built their brand on bold content, which usually means sexually charged material.
They cater to a niche for sure.
Yeah.
The PIL brings up the question, are they operating within legal limits, especially concerning minors? That's crucial.
And this is really serious. The PIL apparently raised concerns about potential instances of child pornography on some OTT platforms.
Okay, that changes everything. That's not just about obscenity or bad taste. That's a severe criminal issue. If that allegation holds any water, the court would treat it with extreme gravity.
Absolutely. So, bottom line, the court has told all these platforms, we need answers, detailed plans. How are you going to deal with this obscene content?
Right. They need to show their homework. What are their current moderation policies? How do they find and remove this stuff? What are they planning to do better? It's a demand for accountability.
And that phrase Justice Gava used, social responsibility, it just keeps echoing. It feels like the court is really trying to drill home that these platforms have obligations beyond just making money.
It shifts the frame. It's not just about following the letter of the law, but about the ethical duty that comes with having such massive reach and cultural influence.
So let's talk a bit more about Uday Maherkar, the person who started this ball rolling with the PIL. He's not just some random person off the street.
No, apparently not. He's described as a seasoned journalist, an author, someone who has a track record of looking into and writing about societal issues.
And it sounds like he presented this PIL not just as a moral complaint, but as a response to a real growing crisis, backed by research, apparently.
Yeah, framing it as a data-driven concern about a tangible threat, especially to young people, definitely lends it more weight than just saying, I don't like this stuff.
He had a lawyer, Vishnu Shankar Jain, representing him. And Jain made a point of saying the petition isn't supposed to be adversarial.
Interesting tactic.
Yeah, the idea being, We're not here to attack these companies. We're here to address genuine concerns about how easy it is to access explicit material.
That's smart positioning. Makes it sound more collaborative, maybe, trying to find a solution rather than just pointing fingers.
And apparently, Maherkar tried other routes first. He'd complained to authorities before, but felt nothing much happened.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court was kind of the next logical, or perhaps last, resort.
That suggests a frustration with the existing systems for dealing with these complaints. Going to the Supreme Court really signals how serious he believes the issue is, and that maybe only judicial pressure will work.
So, zooming out again,
Hmm.
this whole case touches on some really big fundamental issues, doesn't it? Like, how do we balance freedom of expression, which is vital,
Totally vital.
with the need to protect vulnerable people, especially children? That feels like the core tension here.
It's a classic dilemma, massively amplified by the internet's global nature and speed. How do you protect people without stifling legitimate expression?
And who even gets to define obscene? That word itself feels so subjective. What's offensive to one person might be art or satire to another. Where do you draw the line?
That's the million-dollar question, legally and culturally. Definitions of obscenity change over time and across places. The courts have to try and set standards that are clear, legally sound, but also flexible enough to respect free speech. It's incredibly difficult.
But the fact that the Supreme Court is tackling this head-on suggests India is ready to really engage with these thorny questions about regulating the online world.
Definitely. It shows a willingness to confront the specific challenges of the digital age, not just ignore them. They're looking for ways to make the online space safer.
And these notices, they feel like more than just a message to the platforms. It's like a signal to everyone involved, right? Government, platforms, even us users.
Exactly. It's a wake-up call on multiple levels. Governments need to think seriously about effective laws. Platforms need to step up their game on moderation and responsibility.
And us. What's our role?
Well, our clicks, our shares, what we choose to watch and amplify, it all shapes the online environment. We collectively contribute to the norms and the content that gets visibility. There's a user responsibility aspect, too.
Right. And thinking about the government again, the Solicitor General acknowledged the problem exists, which is something.
It is.
Yeah.
Admitting there's an issue is the first step.
But that contemplation phase, you have to wonder how long that lasts, what concrete actions might follow.
It's complex. Crafting good policy takes time. You have legal hurdles, technical challenges, enforcement issues. It's not simple.
We do have existing laws, like the IT Act, POCSO Act.
True, but they might need updating. They were written before the sheer scale of today's streaming and social media landscape really exploded. Technology moves faster than law, often.
Plus, regulating global companies based elsewhere. That must be a nightmare, logistically and legally.
Cross-border enforcement is a massive challenge, yeah. It often needs international cooperation, which isn't always easy to achieve.
So what could the government realistically do? Set up a special digital watchdog, a dedicated task force.
Those are possibilities. A specialized body with expertise in digital tech and law could potentially be more effective than trying to adapt existing structures.
And the platforms, Netflix, YouTube, etc. How are they likely to react to these notices?
Well, they'll have to respond formally, likely. They'll detail their current moderation efforts, maybe highlight improvements they're making, perhaps point to AI tools they use.
They do have things like parental controls, age ratings.
Yeah, but as Solicitor General Mehta pointed out, those aren't foolproof. Kids can often find ways around them.
True. So the platforms might need to show those controls are getting stronger, more effective.
Precisely. They'll be under pressure to demonstrate that their safeguards actually work, especially for protecting minors.
So maybe we'll see more investment in AI for flagging content. More human moderators. Although that job sounds incredibly tough.
It is. Content moderation takes a real human toll. Finding the right mix of AI efficiency and human judgment while supporting the moderators is key. It's a balancing act for the platforms.
Well, whatever happens next, it feels like this Supreme Court action is a really significant development. A line in the sand, perhaps.
It's definitely a major moment in the conversation about online regulation in India. Uday Maherkar's PIL has certainly pushed the issue right into the spotlight.
The huge question now is, will it lead to real, tangible changes? A safer online space? Or will it fizzle out into just more discussion?
Time will tell. It really depends on the follow-through from the government, the responses from the platforms, and whether public pressure stays focused on it.
And it does make you think about your own habits online. You know, what you click on, what you share.
Yeah.
It all adds up.
It really does. Our collective actions shape the digital world we all live in. We all have a small part to play in making it better or worse.
So it feels like finding that balance, enjoying the amazing potential of the internet, while ensuring safety, decency, security. It's not just a job for the courts or the tech giants. It's something we're all involved in navigating this together.
A very important thought to keep in mind as we spend more and more of our lives online.